Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, we're gonna take a look at an updated nodes, the Adaptive Polygon MK2, which was actually based on the tissue add-on of Alessandro Zomparelli. Um, if you want to use this, you can download the Blender 2.80 version of Sverchok. So you need to find this Blender 280 pre-release master. This is actually being updated daily. Don't use the master, otherwise the master actually works with Blender 2.779. So let's close this Blender, start fresh. So in the newer version, if you look, you will find Cricut node. So this is one way to find out if you have the latest Sverchok for Blender 2.80. The Cricut, of course, allows you to generate this Cricut mesh, and you can scale it, etc. In this episode, I want to play with Adaptive Polygons MK2. So this is actually behaving exactly like I said, like a tissue add-on by Alessandro Zomparelli. These nodes can handle kind of like the components and the masters. Let's try something. Okay, if we are just using grid, polygon grid, we're gonna be using this grid as recipient. So there's R. This is R for recipient, and there's the donor. The donor can be anything, including the Cricut. And the output's gonna be looking like, let me try updating it. Okay, the polygon grid somehow doesn't work. Let me try plane. Okay, plane actually works. So by default, it looks like Cricut is not on the ground. If I increase the number of polygon grid, we have this 10 Cricut, and then we can kind of control the X and Y of the grid. So you can kind of see what's going on. So what the adaptive polygons doing is basically replacing every face with the components, and depending on the size of the face itself, we're gonna try to adapt into it. So if we randomize this in X and Y, you will see something interesting. So the Cricut seems to be squeezed based on the polygon face. Okay, so that's if we are using Cricut. Let's try using cylinder for now, for simplicity. So cylinder looks like this. This is like a randomized polygon face, of course, which is really interesting because why? We can try replacing the donor, actually the donor here with things like maybe like icosphere. So with icosphere, we should have something completely different. Icosphere itself by default is triangle, although we don't see the triangle much. And because the cylinder itself is actually, it seems to be placed at the center of the triangle. Let me try randomizing it. So let's see if we can see the pattern better. So this triangle being squeezed. Let me try actually. So instead of cylinder, let's go back to cricket. Cricket actually can be useful because it has the front and the back. Wow, okay, that's the cricket. Let me resize the cricket. Okay, so that's quite interesting. Anyway, with the cricket, it looks like it's being squeezed or being scaled in the Z. So let's try rescale it. So it has the Z coefficients just like tissue add-on. Let's see if I have tissue add-on here. So I did have tissue add-on with tessellate and dual mesh. Okay, if we actually have an icosphere, so you can see the icosphere is made of all these triangles. Let me save very quickly. This is adaptive polygon like tissue triangle. If we use dual mesh, it becomes this. This is the original, but tessellate is what's interesting, right? Because we can assign something into the polygon face. If we have something like a cube, I'm just gonna model it by hand for now. If I scale it down like that, go to the face and then extrude, just making it something like this, and maybe scale this. So if you select the triangle and select this guy and tessellate, so what's gonna happen is gonna assign these components into the cube. Cannot see in the result. Okay, that's weird. Okay, tessellate. Create a copy of selected objects on the active object's faces, adapting the shape to the different face. Well, ideally this should adapt to the face of this icosphere, but doesn't seem to be liking it. Try again. Okay, fill mode, quad. Maybe it needs to be quad, but I don't think so. Maybe this object is too big. Control A. So we have these objects. Okay. Oh, very strange. Maybe, but I need to download the latest tissue tools. But anyway, we are adapting a 3D objects into the face of the icosphere, for example, in this case. So we have this cricket, all with the kind of facing toward something in the triangle sort of fashion. So you can see the pattern. The pattern, of course, is based on the icosphere itself. So let me try to make another mesh. This time I just create the edges. Okay, now it's a little bit clearer, especially if I actually create the face. So yeah, the cricket is facing a certain directions. So Adaptive Polygon MK2 actually works really well with the triangle as well, which can be useful if we try using ring, for example, instead of cricket. Delete the cricket, plug in the ring as the donor. So now we have ring on top of the triangle. If I now turn off the visibility of the triangle, okay, cool. So here we can use maybe solidify, and assign a different thickness. I don't know if we can have multiple objects for this ring. Okay, I just made a mistake, right? I'm assigning ring, that's I solidify, and I'm using the same objects as the donor. That's why we have these objects. It looks really cool though, because if I duplicate it, and it seems already merged as well, and we can use solidify and give some kind of thickness, and we have some kind of furniture design or something. So I'm gonna keep this. It's pretty cool. So let's go back to where we were before. So recipient and donor. Recipient is the one that receive. Okay, so we have this design completely different from before. We can randomize a little bit the shape. Yeah, it's still these 3D objects, the rings is adapting to the face. So it's really cool. It really changed the surface and the topology of the original mesh. Maybe you can use this with voxel remesh as well. So the ring, this is the donor. We can plug this in there, or yeah, maybe plug this in there, because the donor can be 3D. Because of that, if we play around with the Z coefficients and randomize the Z, even without using the solidify, we can have an interesting shapes. Random number, float. I don't know how many rings we have, but I'm sure we can tell the difference once we increase the size. If you want to be precise, just use list length and guess the number of the face. So this is the face from icosphere, and use the stethoscope to tell how many. Okay, we have 80. Now we just plug this 80 into the size of this random number. So now it's clearer. We can delete cylinder, play around with the cylinder, however, very powerful. So I guess this is a better example for this adaptive polygons, but we only like scratching the basic. This is nothing compared to what the adaptive polygons can do. Okay, so the Z coefficients works. There is also this polygon rotations and polygon mask. Perhaps this can control the rotations of the donor. So if we have like cricket, we can rotate the cricket using these polygon rotations, and there is also the Z rotations and polygon mask. So maybe if we have random numbers between 0 and 1, we could have random value to control the mask. So some seems to be disappeared. Yep, indeed this is actually doing something. It's kind of hiding, it's hiding the donor if the value is 1. So that's what polymask is doing. The rest of them, you can give it a try. So it's not limited to ring or cylinder. It can be any 3D objects. It can be Suzanne as well. So if I use Suzanne as recipient, Suzanne, oh, shouldn't be the recipient. Let me undo that. So the recipient is the icosphere. Suzanne is gonna be the donor. Now Suzanne face is being stretched because of these coefficients, random coefficients over here. Okay, so it takes time to get used to that. There's also the width coefficients with more or less controlling the scaling. It can go too, it can actually go over the size of the face itself. So it's very cool. I wonder what else this can be used for. Cylinder has a lot of potential actually. So definitely try using cylinder, but for now I think I leave it with the ring, okay, because it's very, very clear what it does. We can randomize the shape of the donor or the recipient rather. So donor, recipient, get used to that, and then there's these options to join it. You can join at the end or join it while you are at adaptive polygon as well. It gets more interesting if you are using something like this. If let me try once again. I'm gonna pull this face, so it's like a plus. I'm sure we can easily make this inside Sverchok as well. So delete only face. So we have this, right? This is gonna be, can be a component. So we just gonna bring it here, objects in, get selections. This is gonna be the donor, and so we have the plus. Is it being connected? Maybe I get rid of these randomizations for now. Oh yeah, it's not exactly at the right spot. If they're connecting, they're gonna merge together and mesh into one surface. In a way, if you are using like a voxel remesher, you don't need to worry too much about this. They should be overlapping, and then the result should be pretty interesting already. So something like that. This is Blender 2.80, so I don't have a remesher, but we can use the old school remesh. More or less the result is something like this. It's actually even better. So if we have like, this is just a plus shapes. Imagine this is like a shape of a bird, for example. And the shape of the birds will adapt into the polygon face, and you're gonna create some kind of design. So really like this adaptive Polygon MK2, which is, it works similar to Tissue Add-On by Alessandro Zomparelli. Once again, that's a different add-on. It can do a lot of more. a lot more, but this node is really handy, of course, because you can do complex things like this very quickly. I haven't tried with multiple donor. Maybe we can have like multiple different components and then randomize on top of this donor, the recipient. Okay, so anyway, that's a quick look, another look at Adaptive Polygon MK2, which is updated for Blender 2.80. Again, this is the usual Sverchok Add-On, which you can download from here. All right, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.